Hello, I'm your friend Dylan, and what do you say? Ready to hold a strategy meeting? Hello and welcome back to Your Friend Who Likes Games. I'm your friend Dylan, and today I'm going to be talking about a few things. Here is this episode's table of contents. Mega Evolution boss battles, that'll be first. Second would be the more accessible Mario, and third, a farm for every console. But before that, let's get into some news, a little bit of news. And looking forward, we have a couple of releases that are coming to mobile that I think are particularly interesting. One of them being, it was announced recently by Devolver that Ball Pit will be coming to mobile on March 12th. Excited for that one. It's interesting to think about. My relationship to mobile games is very minimal. I think, to the extent of, After Place is the only really mobile game I have really spent some time with and actually played all the way through, because that game was specifically created for mobile. But mobile for me is, it often is an adaptation of a particular game, or one that isn't the most ideal place to play it. Thinking again of Downwell, I much prefer to play that game on a Steam Deck with a controller, but I did pick it up for mobile, and it's fun to just kind of play around for a little bit, but it's not a place where I'm pursuing the final boss because I find it to be too hard to control. But Ball Pit coming to mobile seems to be very fitting. It has that vertical screen size to it to allow it to be able to be played one-handed. And it seems, with the kind of roguelike nature of it, or if I'm bored or at a lunch with colleagues or whatever at work and able to play it for a few minutes and then put it down or suspend it, I think I could get into that. It does kind of have an automatic nature to it. Ball Pit letting you're just kind of controlling the trajectory of things and hoping that you're strong enough to get through it all. So yeah, I think I would replay that and let it kind of exist on my phone and work in that way. So March 12th is the release date of Ball Pit on mobile. And another one is Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars on mobile, April 7th is coming to iOS and Android. Not a place I think I'm going to play it, but I think it's interesting to have it be available, I think, because while Sea of Stars is available on Switch, is available on PC, and I think consoles too, I don't know, maybe it's just for mobile. I think being that we always have our phones with us, the accessibility, or at least most people do, the accessibility of it, I think, can really help somebody play a game like Sea of Stars that is a big time crunch. So if they find themselves on a longer commute on a train, or in areas where they're waiting often and have that time to be on their phone and want to play a game that is a really excellent turn-based RPG, it's going to be available for you. And it is. People have been asking if controller support will be a thing for that game, and it will. You can use a controller or link a controller to your phone and be able to play it that way. Or the controls seem pretty intuitive in regards to movement and the sort of tapping that is required for not only attacking but kind of parrying the incoming attacks in a timely fashion. So interesting that it's coming to mobile, and I think, again, just a cool way of accessibility. So yeah, that's Sea of Stars on April 7th. Some of you may have heard on Pokemon Day this past Friday that Pokemon Wins in Pokemon Waves is coming in 2027. It's going to be a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive. I don't think I need to talk about that too much here, other than the 2027 date. It's going to be later and something that we have to wait for, but the hype is, of course, exciting, and something that I think a lot of people the community was really buzzed yesterday to the 3 new starters and the kind of tropical nature of the setting of these games. Being that it is a Switch 2 exclusive, I'm hoping they are going to push the hardware a bit and make it a really beautiful looking game. It does look beautiful so far. And then, they hinted at possibly being able to explore underwater. And I can't remember really a Pokemon game that allows us to do that other than new Pokemon Snap, but that's not you navigating a space and looking for Pokemon there. So, if you know, you already know. If you didn't know, new games coming in 2027, and there are all sorts of trailers and hype online that you can check out and find there for yourself. And Stardew Valley turned 10 years old this past week, and a lot of people hopped online in a kind of competitive way to show off their fandom, I found. But it's a really important game to a lot of people, and I think that's an exciting anniversary. I hopped on in at 2021, so I know it came out in 2016, so I was a late bloomer there, but it's definitely my favorite video game of all time, and one that I continue to visit, and I'll talk about a little bit later on this show. But the big news from that was that you can now marry Clint and Sandy, and he's looking to make children more interesting in the game. They kind of just like are there. I hadn't personally gotten that far in the game to like have children and see what they do or how they behave, but it seemed like kind of like the farm animals, they're just kind of there and don't seem to do much. So maybe giving them a little more writing and making them a little bit more interesting is the quote. So yeah, that's the news, and I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we're going to talk about my first section here, Mega Evolution boss battles in some Pokemon Legends ZA. Still playing and enjoying. See you in a couple. Okay, first official section of the podcast here is Mega Evolution boss battles. And not only that, but to talk a little bit more about my time with Pokemon Legends ZA. Last episode was really about the kind of first impressions and the feel of like living in Lumio City and exploring the town and the coffee shops and hanging out with your Pokemon and seeing what the game was about. And now I'm kind of getting into the meat of it, where there's this problem with Pokemon mega evolving in the city, and you are tasked to, with your team of your ZA team, and I forget what they're called, the folks that hold their strategy meetings in the Z Hotel over cups of tea, go out and have to like neutralize these rogue mega evolved Pokemon. So there's definitely some things happening in the city that are causing these like mega shards to pop up, and then Pokemon are obtaining them or getting a hold of them and then roguely mega evolving and becoming dangerous, which adds to the conversation of like, should Pokemon just be allowed to roam around the city? Could they be harmful? And you and your team are kind of going out and about and trying to neutralize them. But I really wanted to talk about the boss battles themselves. And I call them boss battles because it's not just like your typical turn-based Pokemon battle where you hope that you are strong enough and have the better moves and can execute in a fashion that keeps your Pokemon alive while you neutralize the other ones. That's true here, but it's so different and such a different departure from the traditional turn-basedness. And I'll say that with the caveat of I have not played the latest Pokemon games, and that I'm blanking. Scarlet and Violet, and I haven't played. I hadn't played a whole lot of Arceus, so I'm not quite sure with to what extent that's happening here. But from my understanding, like this is pretty new here in Pokemon Legends ZA. This sort of like you are in a third person view, and you have your Pokemon alongside you. You have your party of 6 that are a tap away from with the D-pad of like getting them out and putting them away, which is awesome, super streamlined and fast, which seems to make sense with the kind of real-timeness of being a Pokemon trainer. Like you ask one to return by hitting down, and then you scroll over and pick the one that you want to come out, and then you hit up, and then they come out and they are ready to go. And so you have that, and then you have in these like mega evolution battles, no matter where you are in the city, unlike any of the other battles that you have, like you have the city and the obstacles. I don't know if I call them obstacles, but the buildings, the stairs, the bushes, like all of that stuff is still present. But when you go to these like mega evolution battles, it creates this like arena, and it kind of similar to the like, I think it was a Gigantamax. Forgive me for my lack of fandom here. I think in Sword and Shield, the Pokemon that would like grow super super big, it's kind of similar to that, where it just has this like realm that you're in, but it creates this like circular arena, which is cool because that seems to be like what the kind of axis rests on. We're kind of aiming at the middle most of the time, and then you get to kind of dodge and walk around and aim your attacks at the offending Pokemon. And they are like big boss fights. It's cool. Like they've created like these into really like an event, like where each of the Pokemon have unique attacks, and when you're facing them in this, I will say in this like particular story main quest narrative or setting, like they have particular attacks that are meant to be obstacles not only for your Pokemon but for you. So I'm thinking of one that and I'm terrible with Pokemon names, but there's a tall electric Pokemon that I battled this morning, and they not only like charge up to do this really big attack that if you're anywhere near them, you get caught in this like electric bubble, and that does a ton of damage to you and your Pokemon. So like Arceus, I always go back and forth, Arceus, you know what I'm talking about. You have to like consider yourself, like your player. You can't get hit by Pokemon's attacks because things will go black, and then you fail the battle regardless of the health of your Pokemon. So you have to take care of not only your character but your Pokemon, and you're kind of paying attention to both at the same time while you're commanding your Pokemon to execute attacks. I've gotten better at like figuring out how to do that in like a timely fashion, because you, like any boss battle, you'll start to recognize the pattern of what's going on with each Pokemon's attacks, and like the patterns that they have and that they are going to execute and continue to do. So I was talking about this tall electric Pokemon. It has that big kind of electrical bubble, but then it has these little spots of electricity that are formed on the ground that like will kind of travel from left to right. So if you're not paying attention, they'll either hit you or hit your Pokemon. So you have to kind of like navigate in a very like tactile way to kind of stay agile, and it's really engaging. You're not just choosing moves and standing in one place, and you're not just in a menu where you're choosing moves that attack and you watch health bars drain or not, and you watch the little Pokemon sprite move forward and back. You get to see like I was talking to a friend of mine that, again, I've mentioned before, who's big into like Pokemon Go. He said he missed in like Pokemon Stadium, where when attacks would happen, and like wave, for instance, or surf, I think is the attack. Yeah. Like the big wave would like come in, and that Pokemon would ride alongside it and execute the attack, instead of just a Pokemon I think in like even recent as like Arceus would just kind of hunch forward, and then some attack would happen with like energy in the air. And we've gotten away from like the exciting part of like watching a Pokemon execute an attack, and we see a ton of that in the shows, and I think they're really bringing that back, or bringing it to a game here in Pokemon Legends ZA, where we're seeing those attacks happen, and I think that's super cool to witness. Not only like the bosses executing their attacks and you figuring out like what you need to do, but then like your Pokemon actually doing the moves as you, and each move, depending on what they are, like take time. So you have to you kind of get into a tactile groove of like moving about the area. You have to pick up these little orbs that are really important to build your like mega evolution meter. So the rogue mega evolution Pokemon will drop those if you attack them a few times, and then you gather, and then you will mega evolve yours, and it will help you take or give damage to the particular Pokemon that you're taking on. But not only are you doing that, but you're dodging attacks from the mega evolved Pokemon. You're dodging the kind of area of effects attacks that are happening in the zone. And then you're like timing yours. So it's cool that like bigger attacks, it will take a second for your Pokemon to execute. And then you'll see in your little diamond of attacks on the bottom right that they will sort of refill. So I've found that like it's nice to have a couple of those bigger attacks, but then like maybe like a bite or a tackle that take less time to come back, and you're almost like comboing, which I think they're taking notes from like other, behind the back 3-dimensional games. I'm straight third person is what I'm trying to say. They're taking notes from that, and like almost you could compare it to like I don't want to say it's like directly compared to like an Elden Ring, but I guess that's what came to mind. Was just like they're thinking of it in that way now. Like it's not a turn-based battle. It is a battle in which you kind of take turns, but like if your attack is ready to go, you can execute it. So it is, more of a action game now, a third-person action game where you are kind of dodging and attacking, and there's no sort of parrying or like blocking unless you are using moves that will have that sort of prevent. But yeah, it's a different approach, and I think I'm really getting into it. It took a little bit to get used to. I think I didn't really respect it early because I was just kind of tapping whatever attack was available to kind of spam it. And even the game like encourages you not to do that and you kind of be a little more tactful. And I found myself to be more successful when I wasn't just doing that, because especially in these like mega evolution boss battles, like if you just spam it, more than likely your Pokemon's going to be near that other Pokemon that you're battling, and they're going to come up with like crazy big attacks and set them off, and then yours goes under because it was right by the attack that's going to be happening. So it's actually beneficial for you to not have them like attacking all the time, because then you actually have the ability to dodge when you're not attacking. So it's actually, again, more tactful to be a little more aware of that, and a little more paced. And it makes it more fun. It makes it feel like a fight, like you're pecking away at this big, gigantic health bar, and then being smart about what attacks you use and when. Not only that, but like your party synergy too. Like I kind of have a lineup in my head where I decide to go with like Gyarados first, because he just seems to be like go-to with like any situation. I have a really strong like waterfall attack that seems to work with most Pokemon, unless like the types are really similar, but most of the time it works. And my Gyarados isn't the strongest in regards to defense, so like I try to get some attacks in early before they fall. And then really if I need one with a kind of like a tank, I get my Slowbro out, and they'll stand their ground for a while, and I recently gathered some really strong moves for them, and that seems to be working out. And then my Meganium, who's my evolved Chikorita that I started with, has a lot of self-healing, so it seems to be like my last resort. At least like I don't want to get to my sixth Pokemon. That's a tricky, because then you are really kind of crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. And I don't know if I haven't gotten to a couple of them, but none of them are like white knuckled or like sweaty hands or heart pounding necessarily. It's just engaging. but I did have a couple that I like failed because I either like got attacked by the lava or I lost all my Pokemon. But what's nice about this mode is you could either restart the battle with some integrity and say like I'm gonna just try again, or you can redo the battle with like the progress that you had made in regards to damage to that Pokemon. So you can restart and it'll give you all of your Pokemon fully healed, but like the health bar will be at like a checkpoint that you reached the first time around. So it's like it wants you to be successful. If you want to do it honestly, it welcomes you to do that too. So yeah, that's those. And I kind of want to get into some, as I've like dug into the meat of the game, just some other notes here of what I felt like. I wanted to shout out and like say I had some fun with like, I'm not doing all of the side quests. Like there are a ton of them in this game, but there are a couple that I've found to be particularly fun. There was one in the museum where there are 12 Spupa that are in the museum, like pretending to be a part of the exhibits. And they're so cute. They're those little things that look like they're popping out of a paper bag. But they're acting like helmets or, sneakily like sitting next to people on a bench. And so you just like walk up and find them. And then, the descriptions are along the lines of like, look at this silly goose sitting here being, trying to act like a human or something like that. So that was one I really liked. There was one where, there's a word bubble coming out of a web from a tree that was, someone please help. And you needed to use like a stronger, a move to like get them out. And then you find out why this person was like webbed to a tree. So a lot of those, I think I've been using those side quests to kind of remind myself what the game is trying to present in regards to like aesthetic and context of, we are in a Pokemon city and we're here to, enjoy that. And it's not something that like I need all the time, but I think when I get burnt out of like, the battling or, the main course, or if I kind of feel like I just need a little variety or a reminder of like what's charming about this game, I will do like one of the side quests. And again, not all of them I feel are worth your time, but it's nice that they're there. I wrote a note that I wish I had named, I don't know if it'll fit into the character slot, but like I wish I named my character like Dylan the art teacher, or like some sort of with Pokemon games they always have like the character and the person's like occupation. I always find that kind of like a fun tradition, and I need to participate. So it's not just like my first name. I doubt it'll fit, but maybe. I mentioned my Meganium earlier, and I did not know that Meganium is the final evolution of the Chikorita. And I got real excited about that from my connection with Pokemon Snap. In Pokemon Snap, the first kind of exploration of Illuminate Pokemon in that game, because that's the kind of gimmick, like the glow-in-the-dark Pokemon, is a Meganium that is like gigantic and running about this particular area. So to see that your Chikorita becomes that, I was like, whoa! I had that like excited moment. So that was a pretty cool connection, of course. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have to talk about this too. This is a bit of frustration that I don't know why it has to be this way, but hopefully it gets fixed. There's moments where you might be in like a wild area and you are battling, and no matter what you're doing, when night falls in Lumio City, like everything resets, and you have this cutscene that shows the city from above, and it says like night has fallen, and to give you that prompt to say like, okay, now it's time to go battle people. But multiple times I had been battling, like don't go into battle in the evening apparently, because I would go into a battle with like a red-eyed something in the wild areas, and I would get to chipping away to get the health bar to red, and then night would fall in Lumio City, and womp, that all of that progress would just like go away, and then it would reset, and I'd be in the wild area again, and then that red-eyed something would turn and look at me as if like it never saw me before, and the battle would restart. And at that point, I would just run out and say, "Forget this," and move on. Yeah, a little bummed about that. Not that like I don't know. I guess I feel like I missed out on a couple of those, but it's rare to catch one, so I've caught a couple of them. I'm not really nerdy about Pokeballs either. I should really like figure out which ones I should be using. I just throw an Ultra Ball and hope for the best. And if I don't catch it, then it wasn't meant to be. And if you don't catch those red-eyed fellows, they leave you behind some pretty decent experience candy for the rest of your Pokemon. So I didn't want them anyway. And thinking of Mega Evolution, like this is interesting too. Like this game's limited in which Pokemon can Mega Evolve, or at least from the start. And then you continue, like you have to get these stones that you give to them, and then that tells them that they can Mega Evolve. And everybody, it's actually really cool. Like everybody has a different way that they wear their Mega Stone. Each of the characters have their own like little move or like preamble thing that they do to activate it in a very anime way, including yourself. But it's cool to meet different characters to watch like how they express themselves in that way. I'm thinking of Gwen, the kind of little sister to this like giant macho over aggressive man that gets called out later in the game, Ivor. She kind of twirls and then like stumbles a bit and then presses the button, but like that is very fitting of like her overconfidence, but like not, the body doesn't quite match it. There's this guy, what's his name? Mr. Philippe. He's like a syndicate for not like a crime family. Well, like kind of like a crime family. They seem to be like this club or this group. He like cracks his neck a couple times, which is very like bouncer, or like thug. So like that's cool. But anyway, you're limited on the Pokemon that can Mega Evolve. So that like filtered me into, or funneled me into like picking a few that could have that stone. Luckily, like most of them that are in my party, I'm about. And I started by being like, okay, so now I need to have a party of 6 that can all Mega Evolve, which isn't true. I think I mentioned earlier, like during those boss fights, like I use like 3 mainly, and then like the other 3 have been either ones that can Mega Evolve or like just other ones that I'm interested in. Like I really like Trubbish, the little like trash bag Pokemon, and I liked evolving that into like this toxic sludge of a beast. And it's not that those Pokemon can't be useful in those battles. Like you have like what's called like power moves too. So as you aim, if you hit the like start button on your Switch controller, like it will upgrade that move and use a little bit of your Mega Evolution meter to like make a stronger attack. So like I think they can still like do damage, and they're not completely useless against those Mega Evolution boss fights, but they're not as strong to like stay in it, I guess. So I think what I'm trying to do is like level them up, so even though they can't Mega Evolve, they can still be strong and then still withstand, because Mega Evolution really isn't everything. It's just kind of cool and I'd say a little bit helpful, but not like overpowered in any way. So while I thought that's what the game wanted me to do and something that you have to do, you don't necessarily, I mean, I think to get you need to have some that Mega Evolve, but you don't need all of them to Mega Evolve, at least is what I'm finding thus far. Ooh, another note I forgot to mention earlier, thinking of boss fights, like there was one I fought against a Beedrill, and I thought it was really cool that it pulled from other games where like if you don't take out the what do they call those? The ads, like the additional like little guys. So a Beedrill like has little kakunas that like float around and will like attack you or be in the way. And they're very easy to ignore because you're focused on the big guy. But then like they evolve into like little bee drills and come after you, and have stronger attacks if you don't take care of them. So like that was pretty cool to like, one, make that boss fight a little bit more unique, and then two, make it so that like I had to be pretty tactical about my moves being used and thinking about which ones, like I mentioned my like the waterfall from the Gyarados earlier, and like that one, if anything is in the path of that attack, like that will they will get hurt. And same thing with the Slowbro's surf wave. Again, if anything's in that path, like then they will end up getting damaged. So like that's cool to like crowd control those while also, so just like another layer of engagement while you're playing. And again, I think pulling from other games that have been successful in that sort of combat. Thinking of like city navigation, I know this is like, my brain goes everywhere, but I wrote a note that like I remember in Pokemon Sword and Shield, you were able to get a bike, and like has no one thought of that? Like that, I thought that would be great in Pokemon ZA to like, I think I would be more inclined to travel across the map if I weren't like sprinting the whole way. Like it feels silly to have this city that's kind of like going about its day, and I'm just like running with my Gyarados side next to me, like in the middle of the road. And like I think like having a bike as a mode of transportation would be amazing. I even know like in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, like one of the Pokemon becomes a bike, and maybe I get one eventually. If somebody wants to spoil that for me, please let me know. But yeah, I thought some mode of transportation that isn't like sprinting around the city, I think would be nice. A couple additional notes here before I move on to the next section is I will say that I like that there's a storyline that is about, and I kind of mentioned earlier about Ivor and Gwyn, and like Gwyn just kind of like wanting space from her like overbearing brother, who's that like big macho ridiculous man that like wants everybody to serve him, and like she calls him out and like puts him in his place, and I love that the writing is kind of going that way. Although like there is some stuff with the writing that's been kind of weird in regards to like what could possibly be the key to this the key to this like room we're in, like how do we get out of this dead end? Go ahead and look around, and then like you look around and none of them are the right answer, and then it points you directly to the right answer. So it's literally just like filling time with nothing. There's like no intrigue. There's no like maybe. It's just like, nope, that's not it. And then like you'll even be asked questions like, what do you think? Like, what fountain do you think we should go look at? And then you'll say this, and they'll be like, no, not that. Maybe another one. And then you pick another one, and they're like, no, that can't be possible. And then like none of them are the answer, and you're like, what was the point of that? Like, I don't know what they're trying to do there, but it's not as successful, I think, than some others. But Venture Out Mr. Philippe is probably like my favorite character I ran into. I think he's cool, but like there's some interesting characters here. And as I continue to play the game, I'm sure we are going to get like dive deeper into like the like why the mega evolutions are happening, and like the kind of politics behind that. You're talking to this like shady underground dude that's like, I know what the truth is, and you're like, okay. But so far, like as my Pokemon evolve and get faster and more powerful, it feels good to just like rip through battles, knowing that it's just something that the game wants you to do. And it makes me more confident for the boss fights that seem to be inevitable. Like there's been like rounds of 3 where the rogue mega evolution Pokemon will come about, and you have a strategy meeting with your team, and you go take out or neutralize one at a time. You do then get rewarded with that stone of the particular Pokemon that you fought, that if you want to mega evolve that one, or if you have one, then you can do that. All right. I think that's Pokemon Legends ZA. I'm sure I'm going to be talking about this game again. I've been playing it and enjoying it, and it's a big one. I'm about probably 26 hours in, and I'm sure it's got more as I'm sitting at rank E or D, but slowly approaching A, where I'm going to make everybody, I don't know, not much of a boss. Anyway, see you in a couple with the next section. All right, section 2 of the podcast, and we're going to be talking about the more accessible Mario. And the person or the character I am talking about here would be Kirby. Yeah, I think from Kirby in the Forgotten Land, I have developed a just kind of like an interest in Kirby. I really liked the feel and the simplicity of that game. I don't think I did before, but I think it's something that I'm really kind of enjoying now. Like I don't need a game, or I don't always need a game with a lot of threat. And it's nice to have something that's really simple. And I kind of randomly was just digging into the Nintendo Online Super NES and Game Boy, and just seeing what I had available to play. And I think I tried Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy because I was like, let's dig into the roots of Kirby. And I think what also like aids this interest is I have been reading Keza McDonald's Super Mario book, and it dives deep into like the origins of Nintendo and all of its foundational games or franchises, and like how they started and why, and where they are now. And that is really coinciding with like my interest in Nintendo as of late. I finally obtained a Switch 2, so it's been cool to like have a deeper appreciation for it. I started dipping into Mario Odyssey, which I'll talk about probably in a future episode, but it's just cool to like, I think when I played some of these games, I just don't realize how big they are and what their implications are. And to play something like Kirby and the Forgotten Land and then play Kirby's Dream Land 3 and then realize that like this game from like 1997 or 6, and in comparison to like Kirby and the Forgotten Land, like Kirby feels the same, like that jump and float and the like sucking up ability like feels the same 20 some years later. And Nintendo, and something that Keza McDonald really points out, is like Nintendo is really good at making something, making sure it's like super polished, and then like continuing to like iterate on it and know that it's good, and not just like try a bunch of random new things, but be proud of the things that they've created, and then make some small changes, and then, or big changes, like be iterative of something that has come before. But like they sell nostalgia quite often. And it was really cool to play Kirby's Dream Land 3 and, not have it feel so foreign, but just know that like you can feel all 30 of those years that are kind of just a beautiful tradition of Kirby and the games that come along. So I dipped into, after playing Kirby's Dream Land 3, like I tried finding that again, because I'll talk about briefly or in a little bit here like why I felt Kirby's Dream Land 3 was like the kind of perfect presentation of it. But I had dipped into a lot of the other games like Kirby's Dream Land 1 and 2 and Kirby's Tilt, and where I can't even remember the names of them. There's a lot of like different offshoot games that are like Kirby is like rolling around as a little ball that you have to like tilt your console or your Game Boy at the time to like fall into a hole. Or there is Kirby that is basically Tetris, and you're playing against other people, matching up colors and trying, or I think it's Puyo Puyo, I could be incorrect there, but trying to do that. Or there's a lot of there's some also available for like Nintendo Switch 2, or also I should say, and they all seem to be trying to do different things. I think what did I try last night? I tried the demo for like Kirby Fighters, which feels like baby Smash Brothers. And, it's just kind of like a simple, dumbed down version of like Smash Brothers. And what I think Keza McDonald talks about this too in her book is that, Kirby didn't really receive its flowers or a lot of success until recently with Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And rightfully so. I mean, that game was incredible, and I really am looking forward to playing the DLC eventually. But it did evolve it into a kind of like big level 3D platformer, kind of action game. But Kirby seems to be this place that like allows for like little games that might be stepping stones into other games, maybe a little bit simpler and a bit more accessible than any of the like bigger Mario games. And one, like I really enjoy that. It can feel hard for it to be worth it in regards to like a $60 game. But with my Nintendo Online subscription, Kirby's Dream Land 3 was free, or essentially, or comes with the paid subscription. But I felt like this iteration of Kirby was like the perfect bit that I was looking for. Again, Keza McDonald talks about how the Iwata wanted Kirby, the creator of Kirby, to be like a little bit more of an accessible Mario. Like, not as difficult, wanted it to be a little bit easier. So the beginning like iterations were very conscious of like the gaps. That was like a big thing in Mario, is like jumping those gaps and falling and dying. But Kirby, if you fall into one of those, as long as you tap the button enough or hit up on the earlier iterations, you will just float. And I just found so much peace in the kind of simple platforming, the like beautiful, charming, like cute art style, and it felt like it all fit together in this like very pastel-y, pixely Super NES world. Other ones I've tried have felt like, there was one, I think it was like Kirby All-Star. That's it. It has like 8 different games in it, and like one of them is like samurai reflexes, and the other one is something else, like I don't know, again, experimental with Kirby. And there was one in there that was like a 2D platformer, but it felt like 3 different art styles in one. Like it felt like backgrounds were slapped on, and then like the things that you interact with were another art style, and then like the enemies were another art style, and it all felt very collaged together and like way more fast paced. I just wasn't ready for it. But Kirby's Dream Land 3, I think with the pace of Kirby, like it's just as kind of slow paced as 1 and 2, I would say. But I like the controls a lot better in this one. Like in Kirby's Dream Land 1 and 2, like you have to hold up to get Kirby to float. But I like in both Kirby's Dream Land 3 and Kirby and the Forgotten Land, when you jump, if you continue to hit the jump button, then you will like stay float. And then you hit, I think, the side button to cancel and fall and just be there. But it took me a while to realize that like you could, for a while I was just like sucking up the enemies and then like shooting them at other enemies, and you shoot out a little star. But some of them, if they have an ability, you could do that sort of copy ability like you can in Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Now that automatically happens in Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which has probably trained me to not think about my swallowing in Kirby's Dream Land 3. So if you suck one up and then you hit down, then you can then become it and then have like a power up, which is really helpful in worlds like 4 and 5. So and that's the part where it really starts to ramp up in regards to difficulty. So while this might be like a simple and slow paced game and like, again, way more accessible in regards to platforming, I would say that Kirby's Dream Land 3, like in worlds 4 and 5, like got you have to be more careful. Like it got a little trolly, like it would know where you were going to jump. It knew like where to place enemies so that you might get bumped. And I was very, very thankful for save states, or like you suspend states, that the Nintendo Online service offers you, so I was just creating those in any moment that I felt like, okay, I'm really low on health and let's see if I can get to the end of this level so I don't have to like completely redo it. But I just vibed with this game. I mentioned pace a lot, and I just think like Kirby's movement in this game isn't fast. Like it's just kind of like a slow walk, and then you get presented like one little kind of combat puzzle at a time. So you'll see like a little stair or a little platform with something on top. You jump up, suck it up, and then you look ahead and then shoot it at the next thing. And that along with like the beautiful, like playful kind of like toy-like music that goes along with it, and the like pastel aesthetic with beautifully layered and like felt like hand-painted pixel backgrounds, like it just worked. It just seemed to have this like cohesion that some of the others didn't. And like, frankly, and I know it wasn't any fault, but like playing now on a, the colors of the Game Boy screen on, Kirby's Dream Land 1 and 2, not super appealing. Like that green background it's not super nostalgic for me. I'm a 90s kid, so I was definitely a Game Boy Color guy. So I had moved past that, or started past that, I should say. So it's not super nostalgic for me. I wouldn't mind like a filter on it, but again, I didn't love the controls on those. Maybe eventually I'll play them and just kind of get used to it. But yeah, Kirby's Dream Land 3 I was definitely more into. I think something super artistic and beautiful about this game is that like there's no real stated objective. Like you just jump in and it's kind of assumed that to go from left to right and figure out how to play. And I know like folks at Nintendo really pride themselves on being able to hand a game to somebody and like you just kind of figuring it out. And Kirby's so simple that like the options with that become kind of not endless, but like you can be creative with how you play. Like you get to decide, like, do you shoot that enemy that you just sucked up? Do you swallow it? Like, can you even use it as a power up? Or do you just float over? Like, you don't have to kill enemies. You can just be. And there's nothing that's like, you have to do this or the objective is this. There's no preamble. You are just in that land, moving from left to right and seeing what enemies come to be. And I enjoyed every bit of it. So like along with Kirby, there's these big critters that are kind of on the main title page cover alongside Kirby. Like there's like a gerbil and what appears to be a Dragon Quest slime, a little cat, a little fish, and a bird. They offer companionship and different kinds of abilities that I didn't find incredibly exciting for most of them. Like you can ride on the back of the gerbil and like the gerbil will just like bite or in a sense kind of suck up like in a similar way, but not as like long as Kirby can or with as much width as he can. It will just like suck up enemies, but I did like there's like this little green bird that like you could hop on its feet and it will fly, and they kind of fly and glide above things I found to be really helpful. And then sometimes you can pair those other characters with like an ability that you already have. And I didn't experiment with that a whole lot. And the more I talk about it, like I didn't know until like level 3 or 4 that you could like even use abilities. So maybe I'll go back and play it again and just do it knowing I can have a little more fun with it. It really is a game that I wouldn't mind just like looping through a couple times because it's just fun to be in. And I'm happy I have it, in handheld or on my TV. But what was I saying? Oh, so the ability that I did with the bird was like I had fire, and then so I when I pressed the like suck up button, I would just become this little fireball that would shoot across. But if you have that little green bird, you shoot out the bird in a direction and it becomes this little like ricocheting bird of flame that will hurt anything that comes in its way. So that was interesting to kind of play with and know. So they give you plenty of options to do that if you're patient. I think for me, a lot of the times I just preferred being Kirby because it was simple. Like I just liked, the simple jump, the simple float, and not kind of having any sort of change to that, and just know that when the enemy is in front of me, I can suck them up and shoot the next one, and that seemed to be good enough. And yeah, I don't know. I felt like the art style was really inspired. I felt like I said it was like really, really cohesive, and I like the kind of soft pixelness of it. Everything's very rounded. Everything's very pastel-y. Keza McDonald even said a lot of perception of Kirby is kind of preschool, but I like that cute pastel-y aesthetic. Some of you know already, I'm a big fan of like Bee and Puppy Cat, and I like, those kind of pink, blue, and purple color schemes, and this kind of fits into that world where things are just comfortable, I would say. I think I should mention too, like underwater, there's moments that you kind of float under the water or swim under the water, and the physics change. So you stop like inhaling because you're underwater, but instead you blow out little bubbles, and it almost becomes like a little 2D shooter then, where you change your tactic, where you're looking to like be offensive instead of defensive as Kirby at that point. So I don't know if this was intentional, but I'm going to pretend that it was. Those little like spiral fire things in the castle levels of Mario, the like the scary like Bowser's Castle. There is a kind of mimicry of those in this game. They're not fiery, but they just have like these little black dots. And there's the base of it is like one of the stars that by that point in the game that you can like suck up. And it felt really good to destroy that spirally thing, because in Mario, you're completely powerless against those. You have to dodge them. They hurt you. They give you that sudden death and that do like, and then you have to go back to the beginning or whatever. So in Kirby's Dream Land 3, where you have those little spirals and that you can suck up that little star block, and once you do, all of those little balls just fall down to the ground, and then it's not a threat to you anymore. That has to be some commentary, or at least in my brain, that is some commentary on like, this is the more accessible Mario. Like, this is a little more friendly. It's not as abrasive in regards to violence or dying. Even though I died plenty in this game. You get plenty of hits, but take a lot of them too. This is interesting too. Like knowing, I'm really curious about. Wanted to make sure I said his name right. Satoru. There it is. Satoru Iwata. He was the creator of Kirby and sadly died of cancer at 55. But I'm interested in him, and I just ordered a book called Ask Iwata that has like some knowledge about I think a Nintendo forum that he used to host in regards to development. But it's cool to see like some darkness in this game, and I don't know how much he had involved with that, but among the cute, there is like some clear like in a very like Studio Ghibli kind of way, where like it's pretty and beautiful, and then all of a sudden something weird happens. There are some, like, for the arachnophobia out there, like there are some spiders in this game that like they are like these little black balls that they start as like a ball, and then all of a sudden they have 8 legs, and then they're running back and forth. There's like these cute little pigs that fly, but then they turn into like this evil cyclops with teeth and like devil wings that come flying your way. And then like the final boss fight, the King Dedede, like you get him to a point, and then it's clear that he has this like black sludge demon inside of his belly that is like opening up its belly as a mouth, and eyeballs are getting shot at you, and like that stuff's cool. Like I noticed that in Kirby and the Forgotten Land too. Like, everything would be cute and amazing, but then like some like evil would show up, to where if I even thought about like eventually if my son ends up playing something like that, it's got a little bit of a fright to it, which could be exciting and new, but yeah, like it's there. I like to, and some of you this probably, hopefully, isn't a spoiler if you've played it. This game's been out for almost 30 years, so I'll say, or wait, yeah, about 30 years. That's crazy. 1997, 6. Yep, there we are. Pokemon and all that. Whew. So yeah, it was cool at the credits to almost like a play where Kirby's kind of walking slowly on a platform going from right to left instead of left to right. Interesting choice there to kind of show the kind of travel back home, if you will. And then all of the enemies that you encountered are like credited. So they'll pop up on the screen underneath the little platform that you're walking on, and it'll label their name, and it's as if like they were actors in a play the whole time. And I think it's really charming and sweet. And just talking about it, I kind of want to play it again. Like I just have an appreciation for it, and it's just one of those games like that makes sense to have on a handheld that you just want to kind of play over and over again because it's just nice to be in. Kind of a classic in the way that like Super Mario Brothers is, but just a bit friendlier and a bit slower paced, a bit calmer, more relaxing, and just fun to be in. So yeah, cheers to that. I'm glad I gave Kirby's Dream Land 3 a try, kind of on a whim, just to explore. This year I have been interested in like the roots of things and things that like I haven't really played before. I know this podcast has been really focused on indie games for a while, but I think something about this year with like anniversaries of like the 30 years of this, and it's really gotten me thinking about like my foundation, and some of the things that like I didn't participate in and now I'm curious about. So maybe that keeps going forward, and we'll see what happens next. But that'll do it for this section, and one last section after this is going to be called A Farm for Every Console. Taking a quick break, and I will see you soon. All right, lastly, A Farm for Every Console. Yes, I'm going to talk about Stardew Valley, and hopefully not the last time. I think my mindset with this podcast had been new. Got to talk about the newest and exciting thing, and I was not permitting myself to play games that I really enjoy. And Stardew Valley is my favorite game of all time, kind of by far, I think. I just think it has everything. It feels good. I think I found it at a place that was really transformative in my life. I felt like I was moving on to better things from how I previously behaved, and it kind of became like a timestamp of like, life's gonna get better now. And Stardew Valley is just kind of that forever game that will always be there. And I think the nature of it being that it is an infinite game, that it quite literally can. So A Farm for Every Console quite means that I downloaded and sent the game cartridge, the virtual game cartridge, and upgraded to the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, which I don't really know what the difference is other than maybe load times. I didn't really look at the specs, but I have it on my Switch 2 now, and I have it on, it's one of those games that I just want on every device that I'm playing games on. I have it on PlayStation 5, and I have a weekly game night with my friends on Tuesdays. Sometimes we play Stardew, among other games that we play multiplayer, but we have a farm going there. I have a farm that I got on my Steam Deck when the 1.6 update came out last year, or 2 years ago. Is that last year? That was 2 years ago. Whoa, 2024. Yeah. And of course I have my original farm on Switch that I played, which is an absolute mess. I've talked to some of my friends about that play Stardew, and like why does it feel good to restart Stardew Valley so often? And I think if we think of Stardew as like a roguelike, stay with me, like it's a game that has this giant outlook, and I've heard people say like do a run of Stardew. Yeah, like it's a long run. It's like a 200 and some hour run. But I think some people like to min-max and really efficiently try to go about their farm and, execute the community center in a timely fashion. And a roguelike asks you to start to figure out a game and then go about a game and play it and gain knowledge as you play it, right? So you're aware of the game and you're getting better at it as you go. So if you think of Stardew as a roguelike, like you might create a farm that, really gets into the weeds with organization, and it's as much work to reorganize it all than it is to just go ahead and restart. And I think that's where a lot of people go, is like they see their one farm and they're almost like, and I wrote this down too, is like when you create a life, like you create habits. So if you're in this like simulated life and you're going about your days and there's certain things you do and certain things that you have set up, like you have habits in there. And I think like the hard part for some people to jump back into a Stardew save file that they haven't visited in a very long time is like you instantly feel that sort of like that weight or that gravity. You feel all of those like previous habits that you had before, and like your brain might be different at that point, and you don't want to try to figure out how you were behaving because you're going to behave differently. So hence the restart. But then like for me, someone like me, that the thing that can really unmotivate me to restart a big game like this is to feel all of the work that has to be done, knowing what the game is. But then what I'm really starting to discover as of late is like the game will be there. And that's such a beautiful thing, I think. Like you don't have to do it all right now. Like I think the point that I fail to miss is like Stardew Valley is a forever game. It is a game that like you can continue to just visit and see in new ways because it's a world with rules and things that like parameters basically, but things to do, chores to make, things to make. Like it's a life sim, so you can just live your days. And when I stop worrying about achieving the community center right away, and when I stop worrying about like making my farm beautiful, or when I stop worrying about getting all the best stuff right away, then I simply enjoy it. It's like I if I can just zoom into the day, and I'm getting metaphorical here, but if I can just zoom into that day and enjoy that day, then that's successful. And the fact that Stardew Valley's structure allows for like 15-minute play times, I love having it on every console, because then like if I want to just play some Stardew, I can play a day and then just be done with it. I can put it down, like maybe feel momentum, or maybe by the end of that day I'm over it. And like, but it is a game that I constantly think about especially when in Northeast Ohio here, when like the weather changes. Like I started playing this game in the fall, and I think like the leaves were changing, and like Stardew Valley is such a game about nature and being in it, that like anytime the weather changes here, and a lot of times like from the winter to the better, I think of that beautiful spring music, and it's like starting anew. And this time around on my Switch 2, I did a farm type that I have yet to do, which was the beach farm. And it might be my favorite to date. And I don't know if it's just because it's so different, like, but I like the vibes of it. I chose and I made like a female character that wasn't necessarily like me. I've been wanting to just like do one where I role play. And I did that on Switch for a little bit too. I made like an older person. Or older man that wasn't necessarily me, and just to see like if that influences like, especially like the social implications, like knowing I'm role playing as another character. Like obviously I might make different choices, but yeah, I love the beach setup where it's all sand around your house, and then you have like beautiful ocean behind that you can just like cast a line in whenever you want. Right behind you, you have ocean to the side, you have ocean to the left, and then you have ocean to the bottom, and you have this like beautiful little like bridge that you can get to like Marnie's from. You have a dock on the beach farm, which I think is incredible. And you do have farmland now, so that's the biggest deterrent from that one is like you only get like a little space to farm, and you can't like farm on the sand. And for someone that doesn't care a whole lot about the farming part of the game, like I'm not setting up like 30 things of pumpkins and like I don't know, my friends and I did that, and it became such a chore to like water all the things every day, and like it, some people like that part of the gameplay. I think, I don't know, I'm more about the vibes, and I'm more about like just experiencing it. I think, I don't know. But it's just nice that it's not like everywhere. It's not a ton of farmland, but you can just kind of tuck it in the corner and know where it's at. I made myself a little cobblestone path going to the bottom left, and the kind of I've made the cobblestone not so neat. It feels like a really natural and broken, like as if you see some of it or sand has covered some of it, and I'm kind of just playing the game. And I know that sounds so silly, but I'm not worried about like obtaining all these items, and I'm not worried about making sure I have one of every, like I'm just playing it slower. Like I think with my friends, unfortunately, and I admitted this to them too, being the person that like knew what Stardew Valley was and played 200 plus hours of it, I became very like paranoid of anything we would obtain in our playthrough and saying, we got to keep it. Now we just have boxes like oozing full of stuff that, we could probably sell. And we are low on money because I was so afraid of like not having community center stuff. So, I'm letting us play it a little bit more, and I'm trying to let myself just play the game and enjoy it a little bit more. Cause I know we know what happens, we know that Ginger Island is there. And I if this is truly a forever game to me, then I need to let it be. I need to let it be like a game that I play forever. And to what extent, who cares? Like, I like jumping in a little bit. I like feeling a little bit of momentum from it. And then I also don't mind getting burnt out of it, knowing I can jump back in at any time. So, and I think the other thing I need to permit myself to is like, if I get into that where I jump back into a playthrough of Stardew Valley that I haven't touched in a while, and I start to feel the momentum of what I did before, I need to let myself like evolve or change or adapt, or, I think change is the word, like change what is going on or how I play that playthrough, and just let myself play, like knowing what the game is and just kind of let it be natural. And I think then I can always enjoy it. And I think that's my goal. Yeah. And I think that's going to conclude our episode today. Thanks for listening. I know this is a longer one. As always, reach out if you'd like to talk about games. You can find me at Your Friend Who Likes Games on Instagram or Blue Sky. If you'd like to comment on the Spotify episode or the YouTube episode, please feel free to do so. Or if you'd just like to reach out individually, I'd love to chat about games. If you like what you hear, please give a rating on Spotify to help visibility, or like and subscribe on YouTube. That also helps. Appreciate you as always for engaging in any sort of way, and let me know what you're playing. I'll be letting you know what I'm playing, because that's kind of what this is, right? Yeah. Cool. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye.